In the old days, Indian civilization could be described by three words: Satyam, Shivam and Sundaram. Today it is Satyam, Spectrum and Scam. Because we are in Kali Yuga. Spectrum is an issue which I think all of us should understand very clearly. Because telecom is a crucial instrument by which this whole globalization process is taking place. How did the Egyptian uprising take place? People communicated with each other through the internet. Why is the Chinese government today apprehensive of its people? Because of SMSs that are taking place. So we are heading towards a society which is a communication society. And this communication society, we must ensure that it can never be manipulated. The sources of communication cannot be manipulated. Old days it was easy because you could ban a newspaper, you could arrest the editor. Today it has become much more difficult to control the means of communication. It is in this context that I have taken up this 2G spectrum matter so seriously. First, it's a complicated subject. Most people don't know what this 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G is. There's a joke circulating in the internet that Manmohan Singh was asked, what is 2G? He said, Sonia Ji and Rahul Ji. Actually, it's nothing more, if I want to simplify it. I mean, I'm simplifying it for your purposes. When you want to communicate just your voice, like cordless, through the wireless, the communication goes in cycles, and there are long cycles. But then when you want to communicate more, email, SMS, photographs, then the number of cycles per second has to increase, and instead of going in this long cycle, the number of cycles starts increasing. You want your photograph while you're talking, so that the other person can see the video of you, and you can see the video of that other person, then it is 3G, because the number of cycles vastly increases. And we have to ensure that these cycles have well-established margins for operation and they don't clash with other cycles. So spectrum space is limited and it has to be rationed out in a rational manner. That is the sum and substance of this 2G spectrum allocation. It is popularly said, because the CAG gave this estimate, that 1,76,000 crores has been lost to the nation. Kapil Sibal, who doesn't know any arithmetic at all, said, no, it is all nil. Montague Singh Ahluwalia, who was my commerce secretary when I was commerce minister, is known to be probably India's biggest chamcha I have come across. So he also joined in the chorus and said, no, It's not so. Obviously there has been a loss. Why? Because the spectrum was sold at 1650 crores per the number of required cycles. And the companies which should not have got the spectrum license, because they were not telecom companies, but they were real estate companies, Swan and Unitech. They then, within a short time, sold it. There are no there are no towers, no equipment, nothing. Just an office in Bombay. They got the license and they sold it. Swan sold it to Etisalat, which is a company based in, headquartered in Dubai. And the other, Unitech, sold it to Telenor, which is a Norwegian company, but most of its business is in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Uninor functions now in India. I saw when I was coming from the airport. Telenor functions as Uninor in India. The Indian version of that company is Uninor, but it is controlled by Telenor. So Swan and Unitech sold it to Etisalat and Telenor. At what price? 7 times the price which they paid to the government. Tata sold their license partially to Docomo. At what price? 13 times the price at which they bought from the government. Also for 1650 crores. The total revenue from selling the license by Raja was 12,000 crores. And forget Tata's 13 times. Let us say that if that license had been sold in the market the way Swan and Unitech sold, then they should have got 7 times that revenue, which is 98,000 crores. 12 times 7 is 84,000 crores. And then you add CDMA conversion, WiMAX, BSL towers, so many other things. It's not difficult to come to the estimate of 1,76,000 crores. I have challenged both Montek Singh and Kapil Sibal to come to a public debate. I said, come out on a television channel and I'll make mincemeat of you. They have not responded. Naturally, they will be exposed. There's been a huge loss. And I would say that as an economist, I have done this calculation in a number of other ways. And I would say, roughly speaking, it is correct that had the telecom ministry auctioned the 2G spectrum licenses, they would have got 1,76,000 crores more. One farmer asked me in Madurai district, how many zeros are there in 1,76,000? I said 11. He said 11. I have never seen more than 3 zeros anywhere. 11 zero. And yesterday, the taxi driver in Chennai told a friend of mine who asked him whether in the elections Karunanidhi is going to win. He said no. So he asked him why. He has given you free TV, he has given you free this, he has given you free lunch, everything. He said yes, but 2G, therefore you lose. So he said 2G, what is that? He said that I don't know, but for 2G he is going to lose. It has become now widely understood that there's something very wrong that has happened. It is not only the corruption angle, as I will tell you, but there is a deep, dangerous national security angle which I have unearthed recently, which I'll tell you about. Now, let me also say that 3G was auctioned, and 3G gave you 130 lakh, 1,36,000 crores extra. So that also proves it. And 3G, their demand is much less. 2G was sold at the 2001 price, when there were only 4 million cell phones in the country. Today there are 700 million connections available and being used. The demand for it is so high. 3G, the demand is not so high. Even then you got 1,36,000 crores extra. Now, based on my own investigation, calling my friends abroad, using my network of Harvard, I came to the conclusion that the bribe is about 1/3, little more than 1/3 is 35%, and that's about 60,000 crores. 60,000 crores is the bribe. Loss to the nation is 1,76,000. So 1,16,000 is the gain for these companies, most of them whom did not qualify to get the license. So therefore I have a petition in the Supreme Court, new petition, which is coming up for hearing on the 1st of March, asking for the cancellation of all the licenses and re-auction of the same. Can that be done? Of course it can be done. In 1996, the Supreme Court cancelled all petrol pump allotments and said auction them. Auctioning is the only way it can be done when there is a scarce resource. Of course there can be fiddling and auctioning too, but then all of us are watching. So it's not that easy. Prime Minister wrote a letter to Raja on the 1st of November and said, you may consider auction. The Prime Minister replied, the Raja replied to him, I have spoken to Pranab Mukherjee and I have spoken to Vahanavati, Ghulam Vahanavati, the attorney, then Solicitor General, now Attorney General, and therefore I don't need your advice. Imagine a minister writing like that to the Prime Minister. But we know our Prime Minister. He was never an elected Prime Minister, he was an appointed Prime Minister. I've known this Prime Minister for 40 years. He has been professor with me. He has been my friend. He has been my economic advisor when I was Commerce Minister. I know that he is a biological wonder because he was born without a spine. So to expect a spine from him, it's too much. When he was appointed, it was because Miss Sonia Gandhi couldn't become Prime Minister. She may have done a drama that, oh, I am making sacrifice. That's not true. She had sent 340 letters, each signed by single MP. I, so-and-so, elected from so-and-so, hereby propose the name of Sonia Gandhi for the Prime Minister of India. 340 letters to the President of India. And one of those letters was, I, Sonia Gandhi, elected from Raebareli, hereby propose Sonia Gandhi for the Prime Minister of India. So how can she say that I was not interested? The President called me on the 17th of May at 12:30 and said, come in 15 minutes. I said, can I eat my lunch and come? He said, no. 15 minutes you have to come. Otherwise don't come. I rushed to his place. When I went to his room, all his officers were sitting, and he said, "You have written me a letter. Explain what this letter is." I said in that letter I had said that Sonia Gandhi has become a citizen by virtue of the Citizenship Act of India. That is, she has become registered as a citizen. I and you are citizens born in this country. And therefore our citizenship can never be taken away unless you yourself give it up. But that citizenship can be taken away any time, subject to certain conditions. But in the Citizenship Act there is a proviso, which most people don't read, which has now been amended out, but that amendment is illegal. So I can take care of it again if the problem arises. In that proviso it was written that whichever foreigner becomes the citizen of India, he or she shall be subject to the same conditions which an Indian becoming citizen in their country will be subject to. And in Italy, if an Indian becomes a citizen there, he cannot be Prime Minister because he was not born in Italy. And therefore, Sonia Gandhi cannot become Prime Minister in India because she was not born in India. The President then told me, "We can go now." So I asked him in Tamil, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Don't worry, I will do what is required to be done." So at 3:30 he wrote a letter to her, because he had already invited her at 5 o'clock to stake the claim. At 3:30 he wrote her a letter saying, "I had invited you for 5 o'clock to stake a claim, but I have got this complaint from Subramanian Swamy. I do not know the merit of his argument, but I will have to cross-check it with the Supreme Court and the Election Commission. And so I will not be in a position to invite you to the form of the government till I get that opinion. If, however, you still want to discuss the formation of government, you can come tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Next day she went with Manmohan Singh. I am saying to the Congress people who say this is a lie, that 3:30 letter exists, we know, because Manmohan Singh himself read out the last line. You can come tomorrow at 10 o'clock to discuss the government formation. He didn't read the whole letter, he only read the last line. Release that letter, and the whole picture will become clear. And I'm also telling you that she had written to propose her own name. So I'm only coming back to, I'm bringing this issue to tell you that a massive fraud is being perpetrated on this country, as if to make out that they are saints, when in fact all kinds of wrong things are happening. 60,000 crores of bribe. Raja only got 10%, which is 6,000 crores. 15 years ago, I used to see Raja coming to Chennai in cycle. Today, he's got 6,000 crores in his pocket. Another 18,000 crores. Another 18,000 crores went to Karunanidhi. He has to get more because he has got 3 wives and many children. And the remaining 36,000 crores went to Sonia Gandhi. I will prove every one of this in the court of law. No one is going to escape. But I have to proceed slowly, because there is a cynicism in this country. Nothing will happen in these courts. No one will be caught. This is all hot air for political purposes. So, first Raja. Well, now he's in the back. Next will be Karunanidhi. He has to be taught a lesson. He gave me so much trouble on Ram Setu. He rubbished the name of Rama. He said, what is this Swami says, Rama Setu? How can a Setu be named after Rama? Was he an engineer? Which engineering college did he go to? Next day he fell ill and he was admitted to Ramchandra Medical Hospital. So I said, at least Rama has got MBBS. This man who has rubbished Rama's name, who has rubbished everything about Hindu religion, the culture of this country, belongs to an organization which was created by the British to divide the freedom movement. He is the most corrupt man in Tamil Nadu's history. And I said, certainly get him. I've already filed an application to make him an additional accused along with Raja. Once I filed the criminal complaint in the court, the CBI then got into action and they also have registered a case. So there is one thing to be decided when there are two cases. What should be done? And section 210 of the CRPC says that in that case both cases should be heard together. I am saying that CBI case should be added to mine. CBI saying is my case should be added to theirs. But in either case, both will be heard together. And if I am the public prosecutor, CBI will have to work for me. And if CBI is the public prosecutor, then I will be all the time watching them very closely to see that they do their work. So that process is on. 60,000 crores. Hassan Ali, who had $8 billion in Switzerland banks, and Switzerland said that government of India is not giving us information to give us details of those banks. He is a benami for Sonia Gandhi. I had once written some years ago, when the NDA was in power, that if you want to find out about Sonia Gandhi's bank account, then ask a small college in Florida, near Orlando, called Rollins College, how Rahul is paying his tuition fees there. I was told that he was paying by drawing on a secret account in Cayman Island of the Bank of America. So I said, if the government writes to the college and says that this is a criminal offense in our country, so kindly give us details of how Rahul Gandhi paid his tuition fees, you will get all the details. But neither the NDA government did anything, nor naturally the subsequent Congress government has done anything. It's very easy to find out. It's very easy to get all the money in Switzerland banks back, or any other bank. But the names that will come out will create havoc in this country. Why is the government of India not giving those 16 names which the Germans gave to us? It is not from a German bank. It is from a Liechtenstein bank. Liechtenstein bank, the Germans got it because they bribed an official of that bank to give the names of all those Germans who are got illegal secret account in their country, and that person gave all the accounts of foreigners. And in that then the Germans separated all the names according to countries and wrote to each of the countries that your nationals are having secret illegal bank accounts, would you like their names? After 2 years of hesitation and pushing the Prime Minister, finally the government wrote and got these names, but now they don't want to give the names because there are some very, very strange names in it. The son of one cabinet minister elected from Tamil Nadu, not elected, it was a fraud election, but anyway, he is representing Tamil Nadu in Lok Sabha. His name is there. There are other names also. So therefore they don't want to let go. If the government wants all the money in Switzerland banks, they can get it overnight. All they have to do is put out an ordinance. All bank accounts in Switzerland, which are held by Indian nationals, are hereby nationalized. And if anyone can prove that their account is legitimately opened, they will be returned. Under Swiss law, that is permissible. I have verified it. Any government, nationalist, patriotic government comes to power in India, all it has to do is bring out this ordinance. You'll get all your money back. How much money is abroad? Some people say $500 billion. Some people say $1.5 trillion. So you can imagine how much money of this country is gone abroad. More money is now gone abroad on illegal bank accounts than ever did in the East India Company period. So, coming back to this 2G matter, 60,000 crores in the hands of politicians is a very dangerous thing, because it means that your elections will be finished, all governmental decisions will become corrupt. It's a huge amount of money. And if we don't stop it now, there are more telecoms, because after 3G there will be 4G, 5G. As the demand grows, it will be a huge amount. And therefore we have to get to the bottom of it. There's one other angle. Corruption is one angle. Let me tell you one thing. People ask me, what is wrong with corruption? It greases the machinery and all that. You get decisions quickly. No. Corruption has huge impact on the Indian economy. First of all, why do you engage in corruption? Why do I give money to somebody? Because on merit I cannot get it. So you want to bypass merit. And if you want to bypass merit, you give money. That means that this country's decision making is going away from optimal level to suboptimal level. Second, when I get this black money, what do I do with it? Either take it out of the country, or I spend it in my country on all luxurious items. I build a fancy house. I put an air conditioner in every room. I buy 5 different Mercedes and Lexus car and BMWs and so on. Have a private corporate jet. What happens then? The profit rates of luxury goods starts going up because the demand has gone up. And when the demand goes up, profit will go up. If profit goes up, future investment will pull out from the essential goods sector, which caters to the common man, to producing these luxury goods. That's why in our country, 5-star hotels are always full. That's why in our country, you'll find all J-class travel in the aeroplanes are full. You will find all the luxurious goods industries never have a recession. The whole investment priority is distorted. Today inflation is because of what? You're growing at 9.5% per year and you got inflation of 16% per year. This is not an economics textbook. But what has happened is that this black money is going to hoarders. It's lent out on interest by politicians to hoarders, who then hoard this, hoard the food grains, vegetables, onions, all kinds of things. And then the price shoots up, then they release the stock, make a huge windfall profit on that, and return the black money with interest to the politician. Inflation today is entirely because of corruption, not because there is lack of supply. How can there be lack of supply when your rate of growth is almost 9.5%? And agriculture has grown in the last year at 5% per year, one of the highest rates of growth since 1992. So therefore, inflation. And then once corruption is permitted, foreigners will come in. And they will pay a higher price and buy you out. Swan Telecom sold its license to Etisalat, which created an Indian branch called Etisalat DB. DB means dynamic balwas. Balwas is Shahid Balwas. And made Shahid Balwas the managing director. The control of the company is by Etisalat, headquarters in Dubai. Who owns the controlling shares of Etisalat? Pakistan government. And not only Pakistan government, but ISI of Pakistan. In their own website they say that. Go to the Etisalat's website, you will see it. But the Home Ministry, before Chidambaram became Home Minister, Home Ministry brought out a report and sent it to the Finance Ministry saying, please do not allow Etisalat to come anywhere in India because it is controlled by the ISI of Pakistan. And that Shahid Balwas is an associate of Dawood Ibrahim. This is a Home Ministry report. Home Ministry report also says, don't let Telenor come anywhere near any investment in India. Because Telenor's equipment comes from the Chinese People's Army through Huawei, and they have cyber warfare capability. They can damage our computer system any time. They can shadow and put under surveillance anybody through their SIM card, which they can program. Even if your mobile is switched off, they can follow you. And therefore, they should not be permitted. This is a Home Ministry report. And yet, Raja gave these licenses to these two people. How did he give it? He first announced on 24th September 2007 that my ministry is putting a cut-off date of 1st October 2007 by which all license applications should come. Now why 24th September he put out, and that too the night time, so it came out on 25th morning paper, one paper, saying today 25th September is the last day. And 25th September onwards till 1st October, these 5 days you have to file your application. And there was a rush. People filed it. 575 applications. Then Raja decides on the 10th of January, he brings out another press release in which he says, even this October 1 date is brought too many applications, so I am not going to consider any application after 25th September 2007. After all the applications are in, after the deadline of 1 October is over, in 10th January 2008, he brings out a press release saying this is it. It was challenged in court, and the Delhi High Court said, this is wrong. We strike down this press conference. But to date, the government has not implemented that. That's why we have gone to the Supreme Court to cancel the licenses. And why did Raja wait till 10th January? Because he tried in October itself. But the secretary of the telecom ministry, Mr. Mathur, he said, no, I won't sign. But then Raja knew that Mathur is going to retire on 31st December. So he waited till 31st December and then he brought a rubber stamp called Berua and made him the telecom secretary, and he did it in no time. He also said in the same press conference, a press note, whoever brings, whichever qualified person brings his application as of no later than 25th September and brings a demand draft of 1650 crores, only they will be given the license. And by when? The same 10th January between 3:30 and 4:30. And when was that press release issued? At 2:30. 2:30 in the afternoon, he issues a press release on the ministry website and says between 3:30 and 4:30 you have to bring 1615 demand draft, only then you will get it. Well, when he made that announcement, the Etisalat, the Swan people and Unitech people, they were waiting in his secretary Chandolia's room with 1650 crores demand draft in their pocket. That means they had advance information. 7 other companies had that advance information. Thanks to Neera Radia, Tata also had advance information. And therefore, these 9 companies got the license. But he was only interested in Swan and Unitech, because these 2 companies were with him when he was in the environment ministry, because they're real estate companies. And Shahid Albaz then arranged for payment of the bribes. This total illegality, it took me almost 8-9 months to get the documentation. And finally I got it in November 2008, after almost 10-11 months, wrote a letter to the PM. Then the PM did not reply. So I wrote another letter with more documents. No reply. Like that, 4 more letters. 3 more letters, total of 5 letters. The 5th letter was, if you don't reply, I'm going to court. So the day I was to appear in court, one letter comes from his secretary that because CBI is investigating the matter, therefore I cannot answer your demand for sanction to prosecute Raja. So I went to court. Supreme Court asked the Solicitor General, why didn't you reply to Dr. Swamy's letter? They said, no, we have replied. Then they asked me, I said, they have not replied to any of my letters except the last one where they said that because of the CBI inquiry, therefore we cannot reply. But the law says that the Prime Minister for granting sanction cannot make any independent inquiries. He has to look at the material supplied to him by me and decide. And that day, the Prime Minister got the biggest insult possible for any Prime Minister when the Supreme Court said to the Solicitor General, we don't believe you, ask the Prime Minister to file an affidavit. Now when the affidavit came, every letter it shows, he had to produce the files, no? Every letter I wrote shows that Prime Minister wrote on the letter, very important letter, very serious matter, please advise. That letter goes to the Law Ministry writes, no need, ignore the letter. So he ignored the letter, because he knows only economics, he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know the law. Another letter, same thing. So, when it came to the court, I was sure that the Supreme Court is going to say, Mr. Prime Minister, you don't know elementary law, you are unfit to occupy that post. Then he would have to go. What do I get out of his going? Sonia Gandhi will then do another drama. Maybe bring that Rahul Buddhu as Prime Minister. Or some other fellow. This man is at least honest and spineless. The next man will be corrupt and spineless. If the whole UPA goes with that, Manmohan Singh also goes, I'm ready. But not Manmohan Singh alone. Manmohan Singh has also got a shock. For the first time in his life, he found that his name has become muddied. I can say today, there is an improved, I wouldn't say an acceptable Prime Minister, but there is an improved Prime Minister. The arrest of Raja, the resignation of Raja, the catching of Shahid Balwas, denying him the bail, making CBI say we oppose bail, all this is due to this Prime Minister. But there are movements to remove him. They want to bring Anthony in his place because he's a super rubber stamp. And plot is on. Industrial houses are also spending money to remove this Prime Minister. So please don't be shocked when you find me defending the Prime Minister. There's no deal between me and him. I am only wanting another midterm poll, but not another Prime Minister from the UPA. UPA should be wound up. So now I have decided to fight it through the courts. You can pass resolutions, you can hold demonstrations, these will produce no results. Today only the courts produce results. And courts also look at what that person who's come with the petition is like. This is not the first corruption case I've fought. You people of Karnataka should know that I had filed a case against Ramakrishna Hegde and brought him down. He never recovered after that. He filed a defamation case against me, and later on he quietly sent me a message, I've had enough of you, I'm going to withdraw this defamation case, but please assure me you will not file another case on me. So I said I have no time to waste on filing cases unless it is a public cause. And therefore you do what you have to do, but otherwise I will make you come on the witness box and I'll cross-examine you. The reason Sonia Gandhi doesn't file any defamation case against me is because I will bring her to the witness box. Now ask her what your real name is. She will have to say, Edwige Albina Antonia Maino. Her passport, her citizenship of India is in the name of Antonia Maino, not in the name of Sonia Gandhi. I will have to ask her, what is your educational qualification? She will say, 5th class pass. But to you, she said she studied in Cambridge University. That lie will come. So many other questions I can ask her. She will be in deep trouble. So they don't file any defamation case against me. I'm ready for a defamation case. If congressmen think I'm telling lies about this, not true. 2G spectrum has the corruption angle. This corruption angle will completely ruin the Indian economy. The optimality of decision making, the efficiency of decision making will go. It will change and pervert our investment priorities. It will cause inflation in the midst of surplus in our country and growth in our country, and it will induce criminal activity, because with money you can do anything. So therefore, the issue arises, what is the cure for this corruption? Certainly, 2G, you don't worry. I am not going to let go till I finish this work. I did it with Ramakrishna Hegde, I did it with Jayalalitha, I've done it with every other case that I took up. I never let go. So this also I will not let go. I am 100% certain that we shall be successful in cancelling the licenses. That will be very painful for Raja, Rani and Karunanidhi, because they will have to return the bribe. If they don't return the bribe, then Dawood Ibrahim won't like it. So they are resisting. You will soon find when on the 1st of March when we argue, the government will say it is not in the public interest to cancel the license. Why? We are not saying that these people, Etisalat and Telenor, they can't get license. Although in the case of Etisalat and Telenor, because of national security reasons, they will be denied entry. But all the others, they can reapply, they can participate in the auction. And whatever they paid now, 1650, can be deducted from that price. Nation will get an additional of at least 1,76,000 crores, and your budget deficit will be taken care of. So now I come to the fundamental question. Why is it that this country has become more and more corrupt as we have less and less regulations and more economic reform? Let me also say to you that recently the US senators sent me a letter they have written to Obama on the national security angle. In their country, this same Huawei, which is selling equipment to Telenor, wants to invest in United States. So they given, this is what the US senators, I'll tell you who their names are. Senator John Kyle, Christopher Bond, United States Senator, Richard Shelby, James Inhofe, Bunning, Jeff Sessions, Richard Burr, and Susan Collins. They're all US senators. And this is what they write. Huawei has been accused of several violations of intellectual property rights in the United States. But more troubling is the firm's reported relationship with China's People's Liberation Army. This is what our Home Ministry says. The firm's founder and current CEO, Ren Zhengfei, was a member of PLA. The 2009 Department of Defense report on military power of the People's Republic of China states that information technology companies, including Huawei, maintain close ties with the PLA and collaborate with the army on research and development. Given China's well-documented focus on developing cyber warfare capabilities, Huawei ties with PLA, that is People's Liberation Army, have aroused concern in a number of other nations in which it does business. According to British, French, Australian intelligence agencies, which have investigated Huawei or expressed concern, its products could facilitate remote hacking and thereby compromise the integrity of the telecommunication networks in their countries. Huawei has also reportedly received substantial financial assistance from the Chinese government. In the past, this government's assistance has helped it to undercut competitors. At worst, Huawei, becoming a major supplier, could present a case of a company acting on the direction of and funded by the Chinese military taking critical place in the supply chain of the US military and therefore the enforcement in private sector. This is a country which has open economy and they have the best of relations with China. And yet, when their national interests are concerned, they don't hesitate. Obama has acted on this report and the Chinese have been denied access to invest in telecom. We are the only country which is allowing foreigners freely. Come on, invest in our country. Why is it that we have become so corrupt? That brings me to the last question. Last issue I want to raise with you, and that's a fundamental issue. I was reminded of a Hollywood actress. She's quite famous, called Julia Roberts. She's a billionaire. She has lots of money. She's made huge amount of good. She's won Oscars and all that. One day she and her entire family became Hindu. They went formally to a mandir in Hollywood and declared themselves as Hindus. And the press reporters were shocked. They asked her why. They said for the simple reason that when we traveled to India, we found even poor people there were personally happy. In America, we rich people are all unhappy. We have made so much money, but we are still unhappy. And therefore, I want to be a Hindu. And my entire family is becoming Hindu. This is not an advocacy that everybody should become a Hindu. I'm not saying that. But see our heritage. We created a Varna system which has become degenerate because it has got connected with birth. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Scheduled caste, all these are people who are determined by their birth. I'm a Brahmin because my father and mother were Brahmins. That's not the original concept. Bhagavan Krishna says clearly in Gita, it has got nothing to do with birth, it is connected with your gunas and your discipline. Varna system was created by Bhrigu and Bhardwaja sitting together, two Maharishis. And Bhrigu said that a society to function must not permit concentration of power. Those who have weapons will be kings, but they cannot make policy on when to go to war and when not to go to war and what punishment to give those who break the law, as kings can and could in Europe and other countries of the world. But in India, the king could not decide that. He had to consult those with knowledge, who had no weapons, no wealth, and were living in utter simplicity in huts. And those who had wealth, they had to be engaged in philanthropy, serve society, be trustees. They are permitted to make money, but their social status will not be determined by how much money you have. Today, the more money you have, the higher is your social status. The same thing in the United States. But that was not our culture. Those who had land would produce for the society. Those who were pushed out of society, their children were not outcasts. Valmiki's parents were pushed out of society. But Valmiki became Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Vedavyasa's mother was a fisherwoman. He became a Maharishi and wrote the Mahabharata. Kalidasa was a hunter and he became a great poet, Maharishi. Vishwamitra was the son of Kshatriya parents, but he became Rishi of Rishis. Ravan was a Brahmin and he was killed. He was killed by Kshatriya. And the Brahmins did not worship Ravan, saying, oh, look at this Rama, he killed one of us. No. Ravan broke the law and therefore he had to be killed. But the institution of Brahmin was respected, and that's why Rama, after killing him, did Brahmahatya puja. I mean, that is for that dosham, he wanted to, dosham nivaran, he did a puja. That was the system, because that system, simplicity, courage and knowledge was elevated to high society. And that's why we survived for so long. This is what is called Sanatana Dharma. Material progress blended with spiritual values. And that's in this globalization era going away. It's evaporating. Now it's all money, money, shortcut, anything, long cut, whatever. Make money. Why you want to be a MBA? Because I want to make money. Why you want to be a businessman and do crooked things? Because I want to make money fast. That mentality is causing greed. Greed means corruption. When money becomes an end, it becomes that. Money, we need material progress. But that doesn't mean that is the only value. That has to change in the long run. Short run, you catch people, book them, send them to jail. The United States is doing that very effectively. In January 2008, 2009, there were two press conferences at the same time. One press conference was in Hyderabad, addressed by Ramalinga Raju. Another press conference was arranged in New York by Bernard Madoff. Both said the same thing. We have fudged our accounts and have committed a crime, and we confess and ready to face punishment. Madoff in 6 months was sentenced to jail for 150 years. Ramalinga Raju, 3 years have gone by, is in air-conditioned hospital, having a good time. Even the charge sheet has not been filed yet. That has to change. Raja going to jail today for interrogation purposes. He has not been convicted. But I hope sooner or later he will go to jail for 25 years. Not for 150, but 25 years. But nobody else should be spared. Big people, the bigger you are, the more you must catch them. That's the American principle. It works in America. But it doesn't make them happy. That's why they're all coming running here to meet our Swamijis. C.C. Ravi Shankar, foreigners. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, foreigners. Foreigners are there in every ashram. Even Nityanand Swami's ashram has foreigners in it. Even when I go to America to teach at Harvard, they see my name in the directory and call me up. Please come and tell us how to be happy. I said, I'm an economist. They said, no, your name is Swami, so you can do it. They are the richest country in the world and they are all coming here. That is our ancient tradition. We have to bring it back. Then only in the long run we can be free from corruption. We can be free from corruption in a number of ways. Sometimes by technology also we can be free. One of the biggest corruption harassments used to be getting railway reservations. You had to dance before the ticket collector. Then to the credit of Rajiv Gandhi, he brought computerized reservations. Today there's hardly any, because it's very difficult to manipulate that computerized reservations. So railway reservation corruption is down to a minimum. Similarly, through Transparency, Right to Information Act, so many other things we can reduce it. But ultimately the breeding ground is in the mind. That breeding ground has to be corrected by the principles of Hindutva, which is Sanatana Dharma, that we must certainly strive for material welfare and progress, but never forget the spiritual values which have sustained this country. If we return to the true principles of Sanatana Dharma, I don't think that caste system can, or the Varna system can ever be renovated or brought back. Time has come to completely scrap it and all become one. We are one people. The DNA tests now show, the University of Cambridge has done it, University of Texas has done it, Mysore University, I was told, has done it. DNA of all Indians is the same, without difference. Whether you're a scheduled caste or a Brahmin, the DNA is the same. Skin color cannot be a basis for race, because skin color is pigmentation. Michael Jackson, the singer, that black singer, he went one day to plastic surgery and took out all his pigmentation, he became a white man. Pigmentation is not there. But the DNA is the test of your race, and we are all the same. In Bombay, when Raj Thackeray was saying that UP walas should leave Bombay because they are different people, I got a friend of his to give me a sample of his hair. And I had it tested in a DNA laboratory. And I found out it had the same DNA as a UP wala. So I announced that Raj Thackeray, actually his ancestors have come from UP because his DNA is the same as the UP wala. There's no difference. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, whoever, they're all same. So therefore, I'm not advocating the system of caste based on birth, and I don't think that we can rectify the present caste system. It's time to consciously break with it. But we need to go back to our glorious heritage of Sanatana Dharma, where we blend the material progress with our spiritual values, where wealth is not the determining factor in your social status. That is the long run solution. Short run solution will catch all these people. You don't have to worry on that account. And I think Kalmadi will confess and catch everybody in CWG. And once the ball starts rolling, then everything will come under it. And once there is a fear that you can be caught, corruption automatically will get minimized. But in the long run, to be a society completely clean, we need to go back to the values of Hindutva, which is Sanatana Dharma. That's the only way to find solution to corruption. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable information on the 2G spectrum scan. We will now have the interaction session. I request the audience to feel free to ask questions and interact with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. Sir, we'll get the mic to you, sir. We'll get the mic.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Yes, Dayanidhi Maran.
Appointment of C.V. Thomas as CBI chief. In what way is it going? In what way is it going to affect the outcome of 2G spectrum investigation?
In what way?
Is it going to affect the investigations of 2G spectrum case?
Oh, whether CBI is doing a good job or not, that's what you're saying, no? CVC, oh, CVC, oh, you mean because of that Thomas? Now, as far as Dayanidhi Maran is concerned, he and his brother have been crooks from the age of 15. So he's bound to be involved. And this spice jet which he has been bought by 2G money. His television, Sun TV, is indirectly financed by 2G money. Because Raja made sure everybody got it. The diary of Raja has many names in it. It has not come out yet. Because this Jain Hawala case earlier, the diary became a controversial issue. And then it was tampered with and, people lost interest in it. So I think basically Dayanidhi Maran or whether the NDA was involved, these are questions which we can take care of later. If it's like saying that you have got cancer, but you also got a boil. I'll take care of the boil later. First you got to take care of the cancer. The cancer go straight to the Maharani. People ask me why you are against her. She's trying to be a good Indian citizen. She dresses in sari. She's trying to be a nice daughter-in-law. And don't you like the Indianization of her? I said, see, I've read Ramayana. And there Ravan came dressed as a sadhu, wearing Bhagwa kapda. And then he told Sita, come out, otherwise I'll give you a sharp. And she came out of the Rama Lakshman Rekha. So just like Sita should not have been fooled by Ravan. Ravan didn't come dressed as a commander-in-chief of the Lanka. He came dressed as a sadhu. So I don't go by all this. But I do know there are some things about her which you people do not know. I know plenty. People thought for years that she was educated in the University of Cambridge. Now we know she never went there. Her name figures in the annals of the KGB because the Americans stole all the KGB documents and put it in the American libraries, including at Harvard University. I took it out of that and filed it in court. So therefore, I would say, like Dronacharya asking Arjuna, what do you see? He said, I see the iris of the eye of the bird and nothing else. The same way I see Sonia Gandhi and nothing else.
Sir, regarding the corruption, we are going on fighting from last so many years. So as we are younger generation, we are seeing from Bofors, then it came Harshad Mehta, after it came Satyam, recently Commonwealth, now it's governance scam and this 2G spectrum. So this one after the other it is going on. So according to you, sir, of course you are there now to fight, we are knowing the reality. So if this is going on like this, where we go and where we stand this country? And as you rightly said, Sanatana Hindu Dharma mein, though only this can be stopped, this Bhashtachar in this country, only one more Rama has to take a birth again, then only it can be stopped. Can you explain, sir? You came to Lok Sabha, sir.
In the emergency, was you in jail or you are too young to
outside,
be in jail?
Outside, young boy, sir.
Huh?
I was outside, sir. I was a young boy.
You were a young boy. In the emergency, I used to be told, first the Mughals came, no, before that Sher Shah came, before that Ghori came, before that Ghazni came, then the Mughals came, then the British came. So now emergency also, we will accept it. Where are we going? I didn't know what answer to give, except to say, I will fight. And I fought the emergency. One day Mrs. Gandhi declared the election and lost the election. Now how did I know that she is going to declare an election and lose the election? Had I known and I told people, they would have said, this fellow is mad. Never despair about what needs to be done. If you have any doubts, read Bhagavad Gita. Your job is only to fight. Where it is going to go, don't bother.
Sir, this 2G scam, even earlier India government also has given various concessions to telecom operators.
Yeah.
And also now that Arun Shourie is also likely to be interrogated.
Yeah.
So what is the views of India government involvement in this? And also, if you see the corruption at various levels, including from Taluk Panchayat to Parliament level, including our own state governments in various states, the corruption is, it is spread throughout the length and the breadth of the country. How do we eradicate?
I have understood it. You are preaching hopelessness, which is what the corrupt people also preach. Don't bother. This is the way of life. It is going to be, this is going to go on. I don't think this society can last if it continues to grow in corruption this way. Greek society collapsed, Roman society collapsed because of corruption. Corruption will undermine your foundation. So it doesn't matter what the India did. It doesn't matter what Narasimha Rao did. Today you make a start, and the start must begin here because it is so big. Other things will take care. Once the people develop confidence and not get disheartened that nothing is going to happen, then it will grow and grow until we become an honest society. We were an honest society when Fascian of China came to live in India as a Buddhist scholar. What did he say about India? What did Mark Twain say? What did Vasco da Gama say? They said, we have never seen such honest people. They don't even lock their doors when they go outside their house. How did this transformation take place? And if we were honest once upon a time, we can become an honest people again. That's what I said.
Sir, good evening, sir.
My question is, hearty congratulations for a superlative speech you just delivered. My question is, you are taking on all these scamsters, irrespective of their political affiliations. How do you deal with the frustrations that may crop up in this crusade, and how do you motivate yourself to complete the task?
Well, the only way to motivate yourself is never care for results. Work for those results, but in the end, if you do not achieve those results, blame God, but don't blame yourself. That's the only way you can motivate yourself.
Sir, you don't know much, Hari, you know more about the things, this 2G spectrum. The role of journalist is not known to the people. Role of journalist. Generally, we don't speak about journalists. They are the people we think they inform us better. But what they selectively inform, what it is about, let's just throw some light on it. What is their role in it? It's not much known to the people.
I'll take care of journalists when I need target practice. Just now, they are not that important. What is their role? They misreport, all right. They report according to what the criminals want. Neera Radia will tell what that Veer Sangvi, write nice things about Anil Ambani. So he's written, where is Mr. Veer Sangvi today? These are not important issues. The people who give protection are not journalists. Journalists are participants in corruption. They are not those who protect the corrupt. The protector of the corrupt is the politician, and he has to be attacked first.
Sir, here is a question that about space spectrum. That is, initially the report has been came from the media or it was explained detailedly, and unfortunately that Department of Space is coming under Manmohan Singh. That is unfortunate that we have. And again, one more question from my side, that how many years you take for this scam?
Last question is, how many years am I going to take for this thing? I never count the years, you see. It's not my job. I will see that it is done as quickly as possible, and it is done in stages so that the confidence keeps growing. Now, as far as your other question is concerned, your first question is concerned, this S-scam or whatever, it is a scandal. Of course, there is no report of Manmohan Singh or anybody making money out of it. What happened is that the Americans wanted this space, They floated a company which the Germans had a share, which is called Devas or something. And thereafter, the Minister of State in the PMO, his name is Suresh Pachori, he spoke to the space agency saying this should be agreed to. And records show that when Manmohan Singh came to know, he began the process of terminating the contract. It went slowly because he again had to rely on the law ministry. If you had a really solid Prime Minister, he would have asked the CBI to investigate Mr. Suresh Pachori. He would have got a case registered on it. But you know Manmohan Singh, he will do only what he can do where he has room, and that's all he has done. I don't think we should divert our attention with this scam because now the deal is scrapped. None of that spectrum was utilized, and so consequently there has been no impact at all. Unlike here where the money has been distributed and the companies have started giving services. This is an advanced case. That one has been aborted, so I don't think you should worry about it.
Sir, to fight a battle against corruption, we need a strong leader. During the emergency, we had Prakash Nagai. He could mobilize the support all over the country and fight a battle, which we were thinking was never possible, and he made it possible. Now we have regional satraps. We have our own Santosh Hegde in Karnataka, Anna in Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Subramanian Swamy. Among all these, I'm sure every state must be having someone like you. But among this, what now, I think, you are the one who is visible at the national level. Others are probably not. Is it possible that you take the lead, get hold of all these local satraps, and fight that battle, mobilize the students, because younger generation don't have the patience anymore, and their future is at stake. I would request you to throw some light on it.
Well, on your basic question, tomorrow there is a rally in Ramlila grounds in Delhi to which I have been invited. It is being organized by Ramdev. And there is also now an organization called the Hindu Dharma Acharya Sabha, which consists of all Shankaracharyas, Mahamantleshwars, Akhadas, Pitadipatis, etc. And I think by another 7-8 months, there will be a formation of a very strong grouping in which I hope also that without the organizational base and support of the RSS and Vishwa Hindu Parishad, it's very difficult to build an alternative. And but ultimately, they also have to be brought into the picture. This is what I feel. The sadhus, Vishwa Hindu Parishad and RSS, if they decide to float an organization, it can be done overnight and you don't have to worry. Yes, sir.
अभी राजा को तो आपने बजा दिया बाजा.
हाँ.
अभी आने वाले समय में किसका बाजा बजाने वाले?
अब मैंने कहा कि नेक्स्ट का तो नहीं बताऊंगा, बट आखिर में कौन आएगा वो मैं बता दूंगा. राजा गया तो मैंने कहा दिल्ली की रानी भी जाएगी.
Sir, one question here. That Kapil Sibal is posted to the telecom ministry. By the way he talks, probably he is posted there to cover up the operations. There is one question.
Kapil Sibal?
Kapil Sibal is posted, given the telecom ministry now.
Yes.
The way he is dealing with the things, probably he is posted with the purpose of covering up all the, burying the things.
Yes.
The second thing is CBI is very, that's also called as Congress Bureau of Investigation now.
Yeah.
So that's another concern of the public about the trust on this
Yeah, you
institution.
see, the question is some of the things you please see the total picture. As far as CBI is concerned, somebody else would also raise the question. The Supreme Court has now said after my intervention that the CBI will not pay attention to anybody but will report to the Supreme Court and nobody else on this issue. They even went one step which is unprecedented, that before the CBI files its charge sheet, they must show it to the Supreme Court and then only file it. Now just see, if they show the charge sheet to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court makes some changes or even says, okay, no court will be able to go against that charge sheet because the Supreme Court has put its stamp on it. So this is an unprecedented development today in our country, that the courts have become active to the point where they are ensuring accountability. Second, I have my friends everywhere. I am watching the CBI fully. There is no escape. In fact, I am meeting the CBI director on Monday at 3:30 to tell him why he has not done this, because when the matter came up on 22nd February in the Tisazari court, in the criminal court, I pointed out that the CBI has done no work on the national security angle. So the judge said, why don't you educate the CBI? So therefore, an appointment has been fixed with the CBI director. I will not leave the CBI alone. They know that. And if there is a midterm poll tomorrow for Lok Sabha, please send the right people to Delhi, and then you can be assured that the CBI will also will start behaving.
You would like to conclude this interaction session with...
Well, see, I'm not belittling the journalists. I'm not a director of the CBI. I'm an individual, private individual. I don't have any authority. I'm just using the Constitution to get what is the rights of the people by going through the courts. In this, I can't divert my attention to journalists, civil servants, and so on, because I believe I have to catch the people who are the source of the power. Journalists, there are even today journalists who are very, very impeccable quality. And much of the expose which you see in various journals, in various TV channels are remarkable. They have managed in the Jessica Lal case to get a reopening of the trial and get a conviction. But at the same time, I will say that to target a group of people called journalists is like targeting a group of people called politicians. I say today that 75% of the MPs today are honest people. I know them personally. But for election finance, they depend on their party leaders. And party leaders make deals. And if the party leaders corrupt, what this poor man can do? So the problem is very widespread. So let's first start the process of restoring the confidence that our present system and constitution can begin the process of repair. Success in one place will lead to confidence that we can clean up everything else later on. That's what I am doing.
Thank you, sir, for answering.